Hello, my friends. This is Deepak, and we are continuing our conversations with influencers and luminaries, authors and scientists, anyone who is helping create a better world. So, I have with me right now this amazing book by Agapi Stassinopoulos. It's called Speaking with Spirit 52 Prayers to Guide, Inspire, and Uplift You. Here's the book. I've been reading it and feeling very inspired. So, first of all, thank you, Agape, for being here.
Oh, Deepak, thank you so much. It is so good to see you. My heart is overflowing at the
Oh,
moment.
thank you. So, agape means love, right?
Agape means unconditional love.
Yes.
And as is described in the Oxford Dictionary, the love that God has for man, and hopefully the man has for a man. So the brotherhood of man.
Very good. By man, you just mean masculine, or you mean the humankind?
The humankind, Deepak,
Okay.
the humankind.
Good. So I've known Agape for many decades. Her sister, Ariana Huffington, her mother,
Ellie,
that I was very close to.
who loved you so much.
Yeah,
She
she
loved you
did.
so
And
much.
she was also a great enthusiast and follower of the teachings of J. Krishnamurti. So we had a lot of wonderful discussions. So Agape, you've written other books. One of my favorite books of yours is The Conversations with the Goddess.
Yes.
I still use that material in some of my talks, and it has inspired other things, including my own work with this divine feminine and some meditations with Alicia Keys, but that was the original inspiration.
And we launched it at your center, Deepak, that book, my mother there, after the your seminar, the big seminar that you did there. And I remember you said to me, you must come and launch this book after the, I think the seminar was called the Sacred of Spirit, something. There was a
Seduction of Spirit.
Seduction of Spirit, exactly. And it was so exciting for me as my first book. And I always have such deep gratitude for you because you embraced my work from the get-go. And you opened so many doors. And other than the friendship and the love that my family has for you and your family, me personally, I always have immense gratitude for your incredible generosity to me, let alone to so many people in the world.
It's not my generosity, as I say in my new book. The only generosity is the generosity of spirit.
Yes.
That we all have access to, and it's infinite. So let's talk, before we talk about the book, I think the audience always likes to know a little bit about your background, where you grew up, what were your influences, education, a little bit, just a little background.
Yes, absolutely. So I first of all, I want to say that I'm the byproduct of some amazing parents. My father, Kostas, and my mother, Ellie, born and raised in Athens, Greece. And they instilled to me and Ariana a sense of trust and fearlessness of life. They both fought the Second World War. My father, a Greek journalist. We were not Jewish, but the Nazis came and occupied Greece. And my father fought through the pen and paper, and he published an amazing journal that got into the hands of the Nazis. They caught him, and he survived the concentration camps for a year and a half.
Oh boy.
My mother also fought the Germans, and she has this amazing story of how through the Red Cross, she faced the Germans face to face and told them to put down the guns because they marched on the cabin that she was hiding Jewish people. And I'm saying all that as a background of how I have become now my own person and have this incredible trust in life and in consciousness. And I think that was seeds planted by my mother. And at the age of 12, and Ariana was 14, she taught us yoga and meditation. The book Autobiography of a Yogi was sitting by my bedside in Greek, actually then. And I've always wanted to study acting. I wanted to go to the Royal Academy of Dramatic Arts in London. And my mother, I remember I was 14 and I said, Mommy, I read about this school. I want to go there. And what do you think my mother said? That's where you're going to go. So that kind of confidence and belief in the possibilities of life that you so deeply speak about, it's something that I inherited. So I did go to RADA and lived in London for 7 years while Ariana was at Cambridge, and had a beautiful education. And I was hired to do a movie in Los Angeles, and very excited that I was going to star in a movie. I arrived in Los Angeles and treated like a star. And I thought, oh my God, I'm only 23 and look at this, the world is opening up. Well, little that I knew that the movie didn't work out. And I was asked, would I want to stay in LA? And would I want to go back to London? And at that moment, I made a choice to the unknown, because I had no idea what LA had in store for me without a job. And that choice started my destiny, because I embarked on a spiritual path without really calling it a spiritual path, because I didn't really believe in God. I didn't believe in anything really. I just believed in life. And which is a lot, actually, if you think about it, you know. And I started to read every spiritual book of Autobiography of a Yogi and Krishnamurti and Sri Aurobindo and Krishnamurti and Paramahansa Yogananda. And I started to do about 3 hours of yoga every day. I never forget it. I was morning and night, I would start my day, close my day. And what happened is that I had a spiritual experience, a very distinct moment of where my Kundalini opened up, my third eye opened up. I was reading the Autobiography of a Yogi, and I remembered that I was not just Agapi, the Greek girl who wanted to be an actress, that I was a soul, part of the body of God. And I remember falling on my knees, Deepak, and weeping and saying, I remember I'm a child of God. Io credo, I believe. And there embarked my spiritual Ulysses, the journey, what we all call is the hero's journey, because from then it was like, how do I integrate that? And I asked for and prayed actually for a teacher. I met my teacher, John Roger, and I felt at home immediately. And it's the path that I followed all these years, the path of soul transcendence, of the light and sound of God, with many seminars, many retreats, the University of Santa Monica. And you know what is really incredible is that when you have an experience and an epiphany, you think you're going to live happily ever after. But on the contrary, every decision from then on was a leap of faith. And the extraordinary thing is that the universe, the life, was giving me nothing in this world. I was not getting the parts I wanted. I could not have a career, but I kept digging in deeper to get into Agapi, healing parts of myself, awakening, and did the inner work. And during that time, I had another profound experience when I didn't get a Greek part in a 6-hour adaptation of Greek plays at Williamstown. And I was devastated. And by that time, I had come to New York to audition for it. And I remember a distinct moment. I went into a New York City bus, and I sat next to a woman. And you know, I'm Greek, and I speak to everybody that I know or I don't know. It doesn't matter, because I'm a complete and utter extrovert. And I started to talk to this woman, and I said to her, you know, how are you? And she said, how are you? And I said, I'm depressed. And she said, Why? And I said, I didn't get the parts. She said, what parts? She told me she was an actress. She was now a nurse and a single mother. And at that moment, I don't know what got into me, but I said, can I act my part for you? And I did the whole monologue of Joan of Arc for this woman next to me. And when I finished it, she had tears in her eyes and she held my hand and she said, my dear girl, you are so talented. Go do your own thing.
Now, I remember at one time you were doing one person
That was the
performances.
moment, the one
Okay.
woman show that
Yeah,
started it because that woman said to me, go do your own thing.
I see.
And I said, and what I speak about a lot in all my books is how do you spark when the world gives you nothing, when the world does not meet you in your wants, in your creativity. So at that moment, I said, I'm going to put all the monologues I love and tell the stories of the goddesses. And that started this incredible one woman show that unleashed my talent. And Deepak, I'm very talented as an actress. You've seen me perform.
Yes.
And I just said, I'm just going to give it to the world. The world isn't giving me what I want, but I'll give my talent to the world. And that switched everything around. And from that, I was asked to write a book. I was asked to do a PBS special. I did a jewelry collection. I did a second book on the gods and goddesses. And, I was on the famine table. And the next thing I was on the banquet table. And why I talked about that in my book, Unbinding the Heart, as you know, we launched it together at the Deepak Center here at ABC, Home and Carpet with Ariana and you and me. We did an amazing conversation. The reason I told the story is because I wanted to empower people that in the midst of you feeling the walls in front of you or where the world isn't giving you what you want, if you have the courage to dig in and give from inside, the worlds and the heavens will open up and meet you.
Well, what you just described is the adventures of Agape. Keep giving, even if people are not ready for it, and keep helping them, keep giving them, give them attention, give them affection, give them appreciation. Be grateful that you can have the ability to give. And it doesn't matter if they respond or not, but agape ultimately prevails because no one can resist it.
No one can resist it. It's the agape love.
Yeah.
And Deepak, and we'll talk more about this book, but I keep saying this over and over again. I said, it doesn't matter what you do, how many hours you meditate, how many hours, how many books you write, how many hours you do yoga. It doesn't matter. What really matters is that your heart is open to the human spirit.
Correct.
And that's all that matters.
Yeah.
Because when your heart is open, you find it, it finds you. And my God, as you know, we're witnessing it right now in the crisis of the world, the human spirit, the love, the openness, the empathy, the compassion.
Yeah, we'll come to that in a moment. But now let's talk about the book and what made you decide that you wanted to do this. The book is called Speaking with Spirit, 52 Prayers to Guide, Inspire, and Uplift You. And I've certainly been inspired and guided and uplifted.
Oh,
There are too many beautiful chapters here, beautiful prayers, and they're very evocative, very poetic, and very heartwarming. So I do want to ask you what was what motivated you to do this?
It came to me like in everything else in our lives as an inspiration. And I never thought I would write a book about prayer. And once I got why I wanted to do it, it was a specific moment that I prayed with a girlfriend of mine. She came to me and she said, here's my book, Agapi, and I put my heart and soul into it. And I'm nervous sending it into the world. It was about health and well-being. And I said, listen, let's just do a prayer. And we took the book, Deepak, and we put our hands on it and we said, let's bless this book with the love of God and health. Let's charge each page that when people read the words, they feel the energy and they ignite their health, because the book was about health. And we did this prayer, Deepak, and we felt literally like the spirit flood us, and we cried. And at that moment, I said, I must tell people the power of prayer in the moment, in their lives, not ritualistic prayer in the church and in a traditional way, but prayer for everything. Whenever you are about to embark a project, when get into a relationship, go meet a friend, a prayer in a meeting. I've been praying through right now through all my podcasts. Before I do them, I say, let us pray. And I wanted to demystify prayer. I wanted to bring it to our fingertips. I wanted to give a template and say we can make God our partner. And that was throughout all the years. That was the one thing that just empowered me throughout my wanting in my projects and embarking into unknown territories with writing books and speaking and things that I didn't think I would do. What kept me going, it was God is my partner. God is my partner. And every time I gave it over to the divine, to the presence, and I would speak in front of, thousands of people, and I wasn't afraid and I wasn't nervous. It was because I gave it over. It's what you were saying. It was not me. It was like the largest spirit, the presence taking over. And that's what I wanted to do with this book.
You know,
Does that make sense?
yeah, of course. I've been looking at prayer all my life. I remember in high school reading Idols of the King by Alfred Lord Tennyson. It's all about basically King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table going back 400 AD. But of course, Tennyson was a recent poet before our time, before
Yes.
minds. And one of the scenes in the end of the book, Idols of the King, poetry, is when King Arthur is dying. And
Yes.
the poet says, more things are wrought by prayer than this world dreams of, and God fulfills himself in many ways, lest one good custom should corrupt the world. I never forgot that. I read that at 12
Wow.
years of age.
Wow,
Then,
that's amazing. Oh, how
yeah,
beautiful that is.
yes. More things are wrought by prayer than this world dreams of, and God fulfills himself, lest one good custom should corrupt the world. So I was very fascinated that even a good custom can corrupt the world when it gets so powerful that it usurps its own power. So
And I think part of what unfortunately has happened because of the fragmentation of religions, we now have, either the people who don't embrace religion at all and have turned against religion, or the people who are completely dogmatic that their religion is the way.
yeah,
So,
but the religious experience is universal. Now it's become very fashionable for people to say, I'm spiritual but not religious. But actually, the religious experience, which is transcendence, number one, the emergence of Platonic values like truth, goodness, beauty, harmony, love, compassion, joy, equanimity, number two, and the loss of the fear of death, number three. And that doesn't come from religious dogma or religious teaching or the Ten Commandments or whatever. It comes from the experience of what every tradition is called unity consciousness. So I've been looking at how this works. If you understand consciousness, then prayer is like introducing either a reflective inquiry to the divine, which is the higher consciousness that is you before the conditioned mind, or a question or an inquiry or even a statement or even an intention. And because consciousness is a field of infinite possibilities, then it organizes its intention, provided you're not commanding God what to do, because God knows what to do. And God is, of course, not a dead white male in the sky, but God is the ineffable, infinite, formless being without which there would be no form. It's the formless consciousness that's constantly modifying itself as form and phenomena. And that aspect, we are all shattered pieces of God's spirit, which we call the soul, and we forget. And then we have to remember, and it's a very good word, remember, that which remembers what was dismembered.
That's
So
beautiful.
I see your book as that. And, because in these media presentations, we always have to maintain a little time limit, because we want to make sure it gets on all the forums, YouTube and Twitter and you name it, Facebook, LinkedIn. Why don't you read to me at least 2 poems, and then we can go a little deeper and then possibly conclude.
I know, and I underlined a few things that I thought, and you tell me.
No, you'd read what comes to you,
Okay.
whatever you think spontaneously.
One of the things that I love actually is chapter 7 in the book. It's called Finding the Extraordinary in the Ordinary.
Beautiful.
And do you remember the movie Chariots of Fire?
Yes.
And I think you and I have talked about that. There is the protagonist, Eric Liddell, is a training to run at the 90-20. It's a true story. Olympic Games while preparing for a trip to China to work as a missionary. His sister admonishes him for not following God's will and says to him, Eric, you have to throw away this silly running thing and do this really important work, God's work. Eric looks at her and says, but when I run, I feel his pleasure.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
And so the message in this book was that whatever it is that each one of us finds pleasure in, it could be walking, it could be cooking, it could be singing, it could be chatting with a friend, it could be reading something, anything that gives you pleasure, it's your spirit awakening. And it's never trivial, because we get so serious as we become adults. And my mother, Deepak, used to go in the ocean in Santa Monica and take breadcrumbs and feed hundreds of seagulls. And it was she called it the communion with nature. And she used to take lemons and boil them and have the whole house smell of lemons. And when she died, we put a lemon tree in the garden in her honor. She said, I don't want graves, I don't want stones, I don't want graveyards. So that kind of spirit is what I felt passionate to awaken. So I will read part of this. When I wrote this book, I was in the pandemic, like you when you wrote the Abundance book. And I was really hurting. I was really suffering for the lack of contact and the lack of connection and the incredible restrictions. I really did feel exiled. And part of the depth, this book was a gift to me because Spirit kept giving it to me. And in my tears, walking up and down on our street, I would hear the voice of the Spirit. And this poem is about how to find the extraordinary in my quiet, not in my expression, which was my joy. So one of the greatest joys in my life is feeling your presence as I connect with others by speaking, inviting others. So now I speak to God, I speak to the presence, and that's what I encourage everybody to do. As you speak your state of mind as you are, your humanness, you pray for your divinity. And that's you don't just pray by asking, you pray by talking to your best friend and saying, I'm bereft, I'm upset, I'm in sorrow. I have been feeling the absence of my connection with you, the Spirit, and feel I am lacking in the magic from which I converge with my spirit. So now I ask that I may find new ways to engage, move my body, be present in the miracle of my life, and awaken to the aliveness that I have in me. I ask that I may remove the resistance, the limitation, and stubbornness of wanting things to be a certain way. When things don't happen that way, I cave in, I shut down, I blame you, the world, and myself, and then fall into doom. For whatever reason, my ego and my sense of self move into righteous indignation, and God forbid I might miss the awe that I so seek in the simplest of things. The trees still grow upward, and I'm able to walk on this earth through the law of gravity, and even that is a miracle. The earth still moves around the sun in perfect motion, and how amazing is that? There are invisible worlds of millions of stars and planets that are all moving in perfect relation to one another, and they don't seem to collide. The ocean meets the shore in perfect rhythm, even when it's troubled and stormy. So let me, beloved, wrap my mind around all of that. And I bow and I kneel, and I know that me too, I can live in perfect harmony within me with all the conditions of my life right now. I embrace them. I welcome them. I do not resist them. So be it.
It's so beautiful. I remember, first of all, thank you for that reading. It's spectacular. And my friends, if you enjoyed that reading as I did, and this book as I did, please get it. It will offer solace and healing and uplift your spirit. It will guide and inspire you, I promise. And by the way, the publisher is the same publisher as mine, Harmony.
I know, isn't that amazing?
Wonderful that they could do this. So, Agape, we have to close, but that was so inspiring that you just read, and it creates a visceral experience of what you call pleasure and joy, and also of humility. So before we close right now, could you just comment on the world situation? We have so much going on. This war in Russia and Ukraine. Of course, it never stops. Middle East and
Everything.
India, Pakistan, Afghanistan, Korea, Vietnam. It never stops. Ever since humans have been hunter-gatherers, they've been violent. And predominantly, unfortunately, the male species. And this has been going on since hunter-gatherer times. And then there were guns that were invented, and then machine guns and mortars and cannons, and nuclear weapons and cyber warfare and biological warfare. But essentially, human consciousness evolved marginally since the days of medieval times or barbaric times. We now have modern capacities that could destroy the world in less than a minute. So what are we to do? What are we to do? Where is this? How does this help? Do you think if there was a collective surge?
Yes, a collective
Where,
search, Deepak. And I wanted to
where in the world?
ask us, could we invite every single person on the globe right now that we know to pray together, to pray in our communities, and to bring the peace of the presence of God, of the consciousness, as palpable here as we can. And I really truly believe that the human spirit will prevail, and we see it in the midst of every horrific thing that's going on. Now the pictures are so horrific. During the Second World War, we didn't have those pictures, we didn't have the videos. So we are mobilized to access and to have the empathy in action. I see our prayers must take feet in action.
So people think, though, Agape, people think that the stronger military could win. People also think that sanctions could weaken the adversary, but everyone's affected. It doesn't matter who wins. Everyone is a loser. Everyone is a loser. And it doesn't matter if we impose sanctions against the adversary, it affects everyone because everything is so interdependent. So when we tell the world come on, rally behind prayer for healing, peace, harmony, laughter, and love, they think, oh, this is too wishy-washy, new age, it doesn't work. But I think we have science now, the consciousness, the science of consciousness, which shows that intention orchestrating from a field of pure potentiality, pure purity, with no self-interest, collectively could heal the world. After all, the word healing comes from the word whole, and health also comes from the word whole, and so does holy. So healing
Yes,
is the return to wholeness, and
yes.
it is
And
sacred.
and
So
and gratitude. I mean, there is a
yes,
poem on page 18. We don't have time to read
yeah,
it, but I actually say, then my mind wanders to too many things to do every day, which millions of people do that are so easily to access. So what do I do? Take a moment every time you do something that is easy and accessible to you, hold it in reverence, the gift of your life. When you get the inner calling, aim to make your life an offering to all those around you, and give thanks to all those you may never meet who contribute to your life every day. So one thing we can do is we can take what can I do, and you say, I cannot do anything for the refugees. I can donate money. I can tell people who I know. There, two friends of mine are flying to Poland as we speak, two amazing men who have foundations to serve. God bless them, and we send them with our prayers. But what can we do when we are sitting at our homes with our beautiful lives, and you're traveling all around promoting your message of inner and outer abundance? I'm going everywhere I can to talk about prayer. Each one of us can, through gratitude and through contribution, and through, for myself, when I bitch about something in my life, I go to myself, Agapi, don't do that, stop it. So I come into this action right now. This incredible crisis in the world is getting me to be more grateful, more reverent, more giving, and more generous. And that in itself is what we can all do to for the betterment, because none of us know what's going to happen. None of us know what destruction can occur out of this, Deepak. And so we only have this moment, and in this moment, love can win, gratitude can win, empathy can win, compassion can win.
Agape, with that note, we'll end speaking with spirit. 52 prayers to guide, inspire, and uplift you. Please get the book, share this video with all your friends, and let's create a mass movement of power to heal the world.
And I also wanted to give out my email, because I give out a few prayers as my gift
Go
on
ahead.
audio. And it's agapi@unbindingtheheart.com. And I encourage you all to write your prayers down. Keep this book by your bedside. Wake up in the morning, open it at any page. Go to sleep, but take a journal and write down your prayers. Speak them loud. Your voice has healing power, because as Rumi said, we are not the ocean in a drop. We are a drop. We're not the drop in the ocean. We are the ocean in a drop. So God is in us. Let's awaken it through that prayer, and let the divine and the beloved embrace us.
Thank you, Agape.